So I guess we really ought to think about sleep systems. So you're going to spend some cold nights in tents?
Yeah.
You're in tents or in huts? People probably don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on the trip. A lot of the time we're in tents.
Yep.
And sleeping is a really important time for when you're at altitude. When you're asleep, your body is at rest. When your body is at rest, that's when you acclimatise. So if you don't rest well, you don't acclimatise well.
Interesting.
So when you're actually asleep is a really sort of key part. Staying hydrated and good food is obviously all important as well. But actually, when you're asleep, you need to have a good deep sleep.
I guess you're recovering from a big day. That's as well,
right. Yeah. And if you sleep lightly, then you're just not going to recover for the following day, etc., etc. Sleeping systems is good, and I think we use that phrase these days as well. Sleeping system. So it's a sleeping bag and a sleeping mat combination. So we're thinking of how those all work together.
Because I guess if you had because these come in warmth ratings now, don't you? If you had a cooler one of these, you need a warmer bag, or vice versa. So getting that just right is probably key.
Yeah.
And so I guess it's very cold at night, obviously, in these places. So you really need to think about this. Yeah.
So we're often at base camps, and maybe our first camp with maybe two people in a 2 or 3 person tent. When you're then going to get higher, you're probably then looking at 3 people in a 3 person tent, because you've got less gear. But we do that, of course, because it's then going to stay warmer. Yeah,
in those tight spaces, And I guess something that's different to a lot of people's natural camping in the UK is you're actually lying on something cold. You're lying on snow and ice, aren't you?
Yeah, possibly.
And that can be...
Possibly, yeah. We'll always try. It depends a little bit on the mountain. It depends on the time of year you're there. Sometimes you'll be sleeping on bare ice, and sometimes you'll be on a sort of a piece of glacier that's been cleared, and it's gravel and rubble and things as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So often with inside a tent, I mean, it makes me laugh. Years ago, we would have something like this.
Yeah.
This would be our sleeping mat, and we would have a great down sleeping bag, and then we'd be on this. And this is what, 1 centimetre thick, and we'd be really, really comfortable.
But they're quite warm for their weight, aren't they? Just bulky, aren't they?
Just
you just can't pack them away.
I mean, it's not going to go anywhere. So actually, we still use something similar to this, but we now use this as a tent liner.
Okay.
So we would put our tent up as normal, not for comfort. It's to protect the tent in effect.
Yep.
So ground sheet protector, ideally. So this is inside your tent, something like this, or maybe a shade thinner, and then on top of that is your more traditional. There you go, I'll swap. Nice. And then something like this, which, I mean, the bulk of that straight away is a completely different thing, isn't it? So this is now an inflatable mattress. So there we go.
Here I have one I made earlier.
Here's one we prepared earlier. This should have a face on it, really. We should be talking to it. So this goes to this. This has obviously got lots of cells within it. It's made of a really, really good sort of construction, so you can, you're not going to tear it, you're not going to burst it. But inside here is then either going to be a synthetic material, much the same as a jacket, or in some cases some down as well. So the down is going to be a very, very warm mat. So it then means that you can then use that in combination with your sleeping bag and thinking about that system. And then if you've got a ground sheet protector underneath that, you've then got a really good, comfortable combination.
Brilliant. So obviously we've talked about mats to lie on and sleep on, but then very importantly, of course, is a sleeping bag. Yeah. So there's loads you can talk about the sleeping bags. We've even done videos, go and look at them to figure out what fill power and everything means. But I guess the simple thing you can look at on a sleeping bag is 1, the temperature rating, but 2, maybe more importantly, because temperature rating can be, you can decide how warm or cold person you are.
Yeah, sure.
What sort of amount of down would you look for in your sleeping bag, do you think?
Yeah, so this is a really good example. So this has got 1,000 grams of down in it. So it's quite a big, bulky sleeping bag. There's lots of material to it, but it's actually quite a broad sleeping bag as well. And for me, that's quite an important thing. Again, what we're talking about here is staying for perhaps 20, 25 nights. If you don't go on a longer trip, it's quite a long time. So you want to make sure this is a comfortable thing. So although you can get sleeping bags that are perhaps an alpine fit, which are a bit more, a bit thinner and have got less bulk to them, you're going to spend a lot of time in this. This wants to be comfortable.
As well. Yeah.
It needs to be big. It's an obvious thing to say as well, but people sometimes forget that they need to remember which is their dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, you want a left-handed zip. If you're left-handed, you want a right-handed zip. and you want to have a bit of a practice of how that works for you. So the actual zip on a sleeping bag, you need to make sure that's not going to catch. There's a really smooth action on it.
Yeah.
So when you're in your sleeping bag, it's easy to do up. It's easy to do the baffles up around your neck and to get your head in the hood and for it to be comfortable. So again, you know, how many times we've said this, it's really important to try it out. And if you're taller, most regular sleeping bags are good for people up to maybe 6'3", 6'4", something like that. Over that, you're probably then looking at an extra length.
Then, yeah.
And again, if you're
like
broad,
your boots, you don't want to squeeze your feet at the end.
absolutely,
do you?
You want
warmth,
space.
don't you?
Yeah.